Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and after watching a little tape on them, I'm ready to do the breakdown. Apparently, the Washington Commanders have signed former Texans and Miami Dolphins interior offensive lineman Michael Deiter, and I'm saying interior offensive lineman because last year he was mostly a center, and I feel like that's mostly what he's being brought here to be. But then when you look at the official Commanders website, he's listed as a guard as of right now. I guess we'll see when we get to mandatory mini camps, training camp, preseason, all of that type of stuff. But either way, this guy has experience starting at both. So like a nice little depth piece potentially, or is he coming here to compete as a starter? We're going to break all of that down. Is he better than Ricky Stromberg? We're going to take a look at some Pro Football Focus grades, some of his background information, a really weird connection that he has to already signed here center Tyler Biadish, who's our projected starting center. But hold up, not so fast now. We got to see what Michael brings to the table. And also, before we get up out of here, I want to update y'all on this big Hard Knocks change that's on the way right now. Actually, more than one change is on the way for Hard Knocks. Very interesting, but that's for the end of the video. Most of this video is focused on our boy Michael that we just signed, and before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I have so many updates on the way. Adam Peters just basically had like some media availability recently, I think earlier today. He said a lot of very interesting things in that video, so make sure you be on the lookout for that, because I'm going to do a full breakdown of his most notable quotes. He talked about the second overall pick. He talked about Jonathan Allen. He talked about Jamin Davis a lot in that video, man. So we're going to dive into all of that. But of course, we're here to talk about Michael Deiter first, and then we can get into that later. So without further ado, let's go and get to this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. And of course, man, make sure you follow Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of that is in the description of this video and every video moving forward. But the Washington Commanders have officially reached an agreement on a deal with former Texans starting guard and center Michael Deiter. He started 10 games last season. He's a 5-year vet. 35 starts at left guard and center combined since he's been in the league, and he's 27 years old. Let's go ahead and throw that in there as well, because Adam Peters definitely has a targeted age range. He definitely has a type with these contracts, and the vast majority of the guys that we've signed this free agency period are between the ages of like 25 to 28. That's like really, like, I'm pretty sure 90-something% of them. He is not playing, man. He's trying to catch people right as they're going into their primes, and he's only giving people at best a 3-year deal. I'm pretty sure Michael's is only 1 year, between not being good enough to start a full season in the Texans' eyes, and even though 27 isn't older, I'm pretty sure his deal is a 1-year type of deal, just based on how Adam Peters has been conducting himself this offseason and putting these deals together based on like just looking at all of the other deals we've given out so far. The previous 17, from those calculations, whatever algorithmic formula that he's put together, just from looking at all the other ones, I'm assuming that this is going to be a cheap 1 year. It may be at best a cheap 2-year, but I highly doubt that. Again, he's out here giving people 3-year deals at best, no matter how good you look. And then the guys with any question marks, even if it's a slight question mark, if you're really good but you're older, 1-year deal. If you're younger like this guy but you have some question marks as far as like productivity, how good are you actually, 1-year deal. So if it's a question of age or production, either one, you don't need both, just one of those two, and you're getting a 1-year cheap deal for the Commanders. And it's just amazing that these guys are even accepting these cheap deals where they could probably go somewhere else and get at the very least a little bit more money, or maybe a little bit more security, at least a deal further than just 1-year prove-it deals like we're giving a lot of these guys. So hey man, I told y'all months ago we would be a free agency destination, and every signing that comes through, it just proves it more and more, man. Because even when we were getting free agents with the previous regime, most notably under Dan Snyder, guys would tax us. Basically the whole mentality going into the signing was, Yeah, I'm willing to play for y'all, but I'm about to charge y'all more money because I know my career is going here to die. There's no chances of me winning a Super Bowl here. There's not even a real strong chance of me winning a playoff game here or even going to the playoffs. So when I come here and I'm coming to play for the Burgundy and Gold with Dan Snyder as the owner, I'm taxing y'all. I'm charging y'all the maximum amount. Y'all have to overpay for me. You have to outpay other teams competing for me to be able to get me to sign here. Whereas now it's the complete opposite, and I love it. But the Washington Commanders have now added their 18th free agent and their third new offensive lineman in this free agency period. Michael Deiter played center for the Houston Texans last season after spending his first 4 years with the Miami Dolphins. He was a third-round pick, but he got the most playing time during his rookie season. Deiter was signed by the Texans last March, but he didn't make their initial 53-man roster. I want to note that. He was signed to the practice squad and then elevated for the first game and signed to the active roster before week 2. And then from there, he never looked back. Started as many games as he could, and the Texans actually really liked him. I'm surprised that they let him go. And shouts out to Scott Jennings from Hogs Haven for that information right there that I just gave you. Also, shouts out to my boy Resh Manuel, because you already know he comes in clutch with the Did You Knows, background information, random connections. And he pointed out the fact that Deiter reunites with Tyler Biadasz, our projected starting center, who had this to say about Deiter's influence on him in college. Tyler Biadasz, again, our projected center, said this about Michael Deiter in college. Quote, "I picked Michael Deiter's brain pretty good my first 2 years there. He kind of led me my first year. I was asking him all of these questions. What do you think about this and that? My goal was to mold my game after him when he played center there. It was a blessing playing around him and just learning the game. He's a great dude overall," unquote. So it's crazy that both of those guys have now reunited from their time in college, now on the Washington Commanders together. And Biadasz is the younger guy. He was the guy that was trying to pick Deiter's brain. And now Biadasz is the projected starter, and Michael Deiter, the older guy, the more veteran, the guy that was kind of like the teacher, the sensei, is now technically the projected backup. It's really interesting how things flipped around, but Biadasz is the more talented player, so you're not really surprised even from their time in college. But it is crazy that the teacher is like the backup and then the pupil is the projected starter, but we'll see. To me, this is definitely a depth signing. This is, in my opinion, our Tyler Larsen replacement. Like, not necessarily a projected starter, but you never know. We're going to dive into that soon. But it's really interesting because, again, even though I feel like this is a Tyler Larsen replacement, the guy that's going to be the backup to Tyler Biadasz, and again, it's crazy that both of those guys go all the way back to college together, and one was the teacher, one was the student. But Deiter is also listed on the team website as a guard as of right now, and that may mean completely nothing. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm diving too deep into this. He may still actually end up being the starting backup center, but it sounds like at worst he's going to be like a backup interior offensive lineman in general. We're going to dive into the depth chart really soon, but I just want to point out the fact that, does this push Ricky Stromberg even further and further down the depth chart right now? Like, really far down? Like, is he now third string at best at either guard or center at this point right now? Let's dive into the depth chart, because who we already signed, Nick Allegretti, he seems to be the projected left guard if he fully recovers from the injury that he sustained in the Super Bowl. Tyler Biadasz is again your projected center, and then Samuel Cosmi is your projected starting right guard. And then I would think Michael Deiter is probably your backup center, in my opinion. Chris Paul is obviously your immediate backup guard to the two starters. And then I guess now you get to Ricky Stromberg on the depth chart. But even then, Mason Brooks, Adam Peters went out of his way to re-sign Kazmir Allen and Mason Brooks like very quickly. Like, that was the first official personnel roster move that Adam Peters ever made since he was the general manager of the Washington Commanders. Even before we cut Charles Leno, Nick Gates, and Logan Thomas, we went and signed Mason Brooks and Kazmir Allen off of the 2023 Washington Commanders practice squad onto this 2024 roster. Those were technically our first signings in the offseason. So Mason Brooks, I know he's technically further down in the depth chart when you really think about it, and especially when you look at depth charts on different websites, but but I'm pretty sure Mason Brooks has just as much of an opportunity to become the primary backup interior offensive lineman than even a Ricky Stromberg or even a Chris Paul has. Even though Chris Paul was over there laughing it up and talking to Adam Peters, and they seemed to really like each other at the Senior Bowl when they were watching together, and Chris Paul's brother was there and things like that. I'm pretty sure this is a wide open competition, but not only just for the backups, including Ricky Stromberg, Chris Paul, and Mason Brooks, and Michael Deiter, who we just signed, but also for the starters. You never know. Michael Deiter may be able to step up and become our starter. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. But going back to Ricky Stromberg, that's a good thing if he is like at third string at best at either interior offensive lineman spot. Because just a month ago, he was our starting center. Like literally. Now he's third string at best at center. That means we got better since a month ago. Just plain and simple. We are trying to shore up as many position groups as possible with quality starters and solid depth so that when we get to the draft, we can get who we want rather than who we need. I love that. Instead of reaching on a decent player because we have that big of a need at that specific position, we can take the best player available that we love and make an already solid position group even better. Upgrade that. I mean, really the only glaring needs that we have as of right now are quarterback and which we're going to take at number 2 overall, and starting left tackle, who I assume we're going to take immediately after we take quarterback number 2 overall, whether that's with the 36th pick that we currently have in the second round, or we package some picks together to move back up into the mid or late first round after taking quarterback. But the rest of the draft after that is best player available. Again, I'm a big fan of that because instead of filling holes in the draft, we're more so going to be strengthening groups that are already at least have somewhat of a solid foundation. I love that. We're going to be drafting for ceiling rather than for floor, and I'm absolutely ecstatic about that. And after watching a little bit of Michael Deiter's tape from last season specifically, I didn't go back to his Miami Dolphin days. I just watched the Houston Texans tape. And from last season, while being the starting center for the Texans, I like him more than Pro Football Focus does. I'm not saying he's some Pro Bowl, super sleeper, still at a free agency type of signing that we just got in a guy, but he was solid for the Texans last year in the games that he started in. Even if you haven't watched his tape specifically, like literally watch Houston Texans tape to specifically watch Michael Deiter, when you watched Texans games last year, like say like the playoffs and things like that, did you ever feel like the center was selling? Because I feel like if he was, you would have noticed. Because remember, watching our games last year, it was extremely obvious that Nick Gates was selling us. So again, I'm not about to act like we just signed Creed Humphrey or something like that, but in my opinion, he's better than what Pro Football Focus has him graded as, because they have him graded last year as a 57.1 overall grade with 60.4 pass blocking and 56.3 run blocking. And again, I'm a little bit higher on him than that. Not way higher or something. Again, I don't see him as like a top 30 center in the NFL, like he should technically be starting on another roster. I don't see him as one of the best centers in the NFL. I don't see him as like a potential Pro Bowler or anything like that, but I think he's better than a 57 overall grade. But then again, his 57.1 overall grade is actually ranked 26th out of starting centers in the NFL according to Pro Football Focus. So I guess Pro Football Focus just doesn't like a lot of centers in general, because you're already at 66.3 overall when you get outside of the top 15. Most position groups 66.3 point overall is like somewhere in the 20s or 30s. So they just don't really like centers on Pro Football Focus. They just feel like nobody's really stepping up outside of like really the top 10. Like once you leave the 13th best center, you're already at Tyler Biadish, who's 14th, and you're officially out of the 70 overalls and above. So even though he's not that good grade-wise, ranking-wise, they feel like he's a top 26 center. So they feel like the Commanders have 2 top 26 centers in the NFL. And you do got to realize that there are 32 centers that start in the NFL right now. There's 32 teams. And for us to have 2 top 26 ones means somebody out there is missing a good center. Somebody out there is struggling at center. If we have 2 top 26 guys, and there should be 1 on at least 32 different teams. And which is really, and then also, that 26th rank has him above guys like Evan Brown of the Cardinals, Josh Myers of the Packers, Mason Cole of the Steelers, Lucas Patrick of the Bears, and even Tyler Larson. More specifically, this guy's your Tyler Larson replacement, and Pro Football Focus feels like he's better than Tyler Larson. And I like Tyler Larson. I feel like he was pretty decent. He was dependable. Other than injuries, whenever somebody else would get hurt and he had to step in, we weren't terrible. I would never want to go into a season assuming that Tyler Larson's your starter, but he was straight. And Michael Deiter, it seems like Tyler Biadasz is a huge upgrade over Nick Gates or anybody we had to start at center last year. And then Michael Deiter is at least an upgrade over Tyler Larson. And I'm assuming he's an upgrade over Nick Gates because Nick Gates was just so bad. It's no way he's not an upgrade. Even though Pro Football Focus has Nick Gates graded better than Michael Deiter, I completely disagree based on a little bit of tape I've seen, but you never know. But last year specifically, Deiter played 686 snaps per Pro Football Focus, had 5 penalties and 3 sacks charged against him. That's not terrible, man. And played almost all of his snaps at center for the Texans last year. So most recently, he was a starting center. I'm assuming that he will be competing for the starting center role more than anything else, or at the very least, he'll be our backup immediate center if something happens to Tyler Biadasz. But luckily for us, Tyler Biadasz has been very durable, so hopefully he keeps that going. We don't have to worry about this. But either way, Michael Deiter is like our backup interior offensive lineman. He's part of that interior offensive line depth group, but at the same time, I see him more of as a center than a guard. But again, even though Tyler Biadasz is the assumed starter, especially based on when we signed both of those guys, let's just start there. Tyler was clearly the priority. He was signed day 1 of free agency. Michael Deiter was just signed today, starting week 3 of free agency. And also, I'm sure that Tyler is making more money as well. We don't know exactly what Michael Dieter's contract looks like yet, but I'm pretty sure Tyler is making well more money than him. But you never know. If for some crazy reason Michael outplays Tyler, I highly doubt just because Tyler makes more money than Deiter that they'll just start Tyler just simply because of that over Michael. I'm pretty sure it's an open competition, and whoever plays the best in training camp will be our starting center, point blank, period. But don't forget, even though I am higher on Michael, I still feel like Tyler is the better center, and Pro Football Focus has him ranked as a top 15 center in the NFL. And I do believe he's just straight up better between the two guys, just based on what they've done so far, what Tyler Biadasz did for the Cowboys these last couple of seasons and what Michael Deiter did for the Houston Texans last season. I like Tyler more. Again, I'm assuming he's our starter, but again, I just want to reemphasize that just simply because Tyler Biadasz is making more money, that does not mean he's automatically going to be given the starting spot. Whoever plays the best, point blank, period, and that guy will start. Now, moving on, before we get up out of here, Hard Knocks has some really interesting updates right now. First of all, there's an update that says that making the playoffs will no longer guarantee a team won't be in Hard Knocks for the next 2 years under proposed changes up for an owner's vote tomorrow. So this hasn't officially been passed. This is not official. This is not the rule yet, but this is up for vote, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pass it. Also, the second update, and this one is probably the most interesting one in my opinion, is that the in-season Hard Knocks will now follow a division rather than a team. Crazy. So these are all proposed changes. We'll see if they actually get agreed upon and they actually go through with it and they're enacted and all of that. But as of right now, they're just proposals. But that's really interesting if they actually end up getting finalized. I mean, that's crazy. They're going to follow an entire division, which means, I mean, with only 8 divisions in football, that's just far more likely for us to finally be covered now. And again, making the playoffs will not stop you from being on Hard Knocks. A lot of people were like, well, we made the playoffs. At least we don't have to deal with that distraction next year. Nope. If this goes through, no matter what, you're potentially up for Hard Knocks. And again, the whole division is crazy. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about us signing Michael Deiter. Do you like this signing, or is this just a solid, depth chart signing? Or are you very high on him, even higher than I am, and feel like he has a chance to potentially start? Or or do you feel like this is just pointless? This is no news. This wasn't even worth a video. Let me know all of that in the comment section. Of course, I don't care if you agree or disagree with me. I'm gonna try to read and reply to as many comments as possible. I've been super busy again, and also, thank y'all. Shouts out to everybody that shouted my mom out and wished her a happy birthday in the comment section of the previous video. Really appreciate y'all for that, man. And yeah, man, I'm about to go ahead and get up out of here. I'm about to go ahead and start working on that whole Adam Peters video, because I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all are excited about that and waiting to hear about that. So stay tuned for that. I'm working on film sessions for draft prospects. I'm working on more mock drafts, everything. So stay tuned. I really appreciate y'all. And again, let me know how you feel about this signing. How do you feel about the whole HardKnocks situation as well, and those updates? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.